Welcome back, everyone. Today's story is about a biomimicry product that's already out in the world. It's doing its job quietly, invisibly, and that's in the true sense of the word. If you've walked past a modern office building or a zoo or sports facilities in the last, decade, you've probably actually seen this glass. You just couldn't tell, which is exactly the point. By the end of this story, you'll never look at or look through glass the same way again. I was mid-session at my desk, headphones on, deep in research and writing for this very story, when I heard it. Thud. Not something falling off a shelf in the next room, more like a heavy book dropping from a height. You know that sound? The kind that makes you pull your headphones off and go completely still, which is exactly what I did. I went to the front window and I looked out and there was nothing on the street. And then I looked down. Sitting on my front porch tiles, this gorgeous Kingfisher. He's a size of a willy wagtail and has this flash of turquoise and ultramarine blue sheen down his back and tail that catches the morning light. There he was, long black beak open, completely frozen. He'd flown straight into my window, full tilt. I'm Pia, and this is Feral by Design, where we steal nature's best ideas for our messy human lives. And this small stunned bird on my tiles handed me the best cold open I've had to date, because I was literally writing about this exact problem when he demonstrated it on my window. That's the stuff of horror movies. It was so creepy.
Spooky.
Clearly nature heard my musings and sent this little migratory gem to seal the deal. I'll include a photo in the video for this ep for your viewing pleasure, and also as a proof point, because I cannot believe the timing of this. Think about the irony, though. This bird likely just flew thousands of kilometres from the tropics, navigating by the coastline and the stars, only to be stopped cold by 6 millimetres of transparent glass. Now, here's the thing about kingfishers. They are perch pounce hunters. So they sit dead still on a branch, spot a movement, and launch at high velocity. So to a kingfisher, a reflection of a tree or a branch isn't just a mistake. It's a high-speed target. He didn't just flutter into the glass. It explains the thump. He launched into it. And then he just sat there with his beak open like, what the what now? Whose glass is this? But this is exactly the right question, right? Because from his perspective, nobody told him it was there. Nobody wrote the warning in a language that he could read. And that's the whole story, right there. And here's the thing. Nature already solved this problem millions of years ago. I love how I'm always transporting us back millions of years ago, thousands of years ago. The solution is hanging in your garden right now, probably covered in dew, or, if successful, a few insects. Orb-Weaver spiders, the ones building those perfect circular webs, they have a bird collision problem as well. A web's only useful if it catches insects, right? A bird flying through it destroys everything. So some orb-weavers evolved a fix. They weave special UV-reflected silk threads into their webs in they're really distinctive, sometimes zigzag bands called Stabilamenta. To us, they look like thicker decorative strands. Interesting, maybe, if you even notice them. But to birds and insects, these same threads are lit up. What looks to us like nearly invisible strands appears to them as something bright and patterned, glowing like a neon sign. And here's the cheeky bit. That same UV signal that makes the web stand out to a bird can resemble the way attractive petals reflect UV to many insects. One pattern, one mechanism, very different audiences. The spider didn't design a barrier, it designed a conversation in the language that mattered to whoever was listening. One clear effect is that they change how other animals see the web entirely. Meanwhile, We built our rooms and our structures and our glass towers without asking anyone else what they could see. And then we were surprised when they flew into it. We're not the smartest ones in the room. Now, before we get to the breakthrough, I want you to feel the scale of what we're actually dealing with. In the UK, British Trust for Ornithology estimates around 100 million birds collide with windows every year. 100 mil every year. That's like asking every single human in Australia to go walk into a glass window 4 times every year. And here in Australia, we don't yet have a reliable national figure, which in itself tells you something about how much we've been looking away from this problem. But we know it's significant, and for some species, it's catastrophic. We've got a critically endangered swift parrot, and it's one of the rarest birds on Earth. It's losing individuals to window strikes every year. So there's a species on the absolute edge. That's an extinction spiral hiding in plain sight on every city street. And for those of us who witness it, who hear that thud and look down and find a small critter sitting stunned, it's genuinely quite distressing. You stand there thinking, oh no, not on my watch, I have to confess. But then, you do a rapid visual check, wings intact, beak intact, no blood. How long has it been there? My Kingfisher had his beak open for what felt like a really long time. I didn't know it then, but he was actually doing a system reboot. He was keeping his airway clear and regulating his internal pressure while his brain tried to recover from the concussion. Genius. Finally, he closed his beak, moved his head, and gave me that side eye I was so waiting for. Maybe it was at me, or maybe it was at the glass he'd just met, who knows. And then he was gone. Best possible outcome. But I won't pretend it wasn't distracting and a bit stressful. Now, scale that up to a glass office tower, maintenance costs, cleaning crews, increasing legal liability in cities where building codes are shifting fast, and an architecture industry that has spent decades making buildings more and more transparent, with almost no thought for what that looks like from the outside to a species flying at speed straight for it. Glass is one of the most bird-hostile materials that humans have ever invented. And the best solution we had for decades for this was a hawk silhouette sticker, which does almost nothing. Birds don't avoid glass because of a shape. They need visible contrast and pattern across the whole surface. One sticker does about as much as putting a single orange traffic cone on a highway. Enter Hans Joachim Arnold, that rolls off the tongue, German glass manufacturer in the late 90s. A friend of his randomly comes across this article about these Orb-Weaver spiders in the late 90s. Tells Arnold about it, doesn't he? Arnold has an immediate light bulb moment and thinks, we're building invisible death traps. We make surfaces that are completely readable to human eyes and completely invisible to birds. So what if glass could do what spiderwebs do? Arnold champions the project internally. The board resists. He pushes through anyway. He funds the research out of conviction. And his team spends years developing a UV reflective coating that could be applied during the existing glass manufacturing process. Invisible to human eyes, visible to birds. They called it Ornilux. In controlled test flights, almost 80% of birds chose to avoid the UV-coated glass compared with standard double glazing. They recognised it as a barrier and they steered away. And surprise, surprise, zoos and wildlife centres came on board very quickly. Consistent, measurable drops in bird strikes. It worked. It genuinely worked. And then almost nobody bought it. The board still wasn't convinced. The market wasn't asking for it. Arnold, go Arnie, kept the project alive on conviction alone through years of near-nothing sales. Then, cities started mandating bird-safe glass. New York legislated it, And when New York tells the architecture industry to do something, it appears the world scrambles overnight. Suddenly, major glass manufacturers were racing to catch up, chasing a market that legislation had just created. Ornilux went from conviction project to founding example of an entire category. Now that's biomimicry reality check right there. Sometimes nature's intelligence sits waiting for 20 years or more until the world finally catches up. Arnold just had to have the courage of his own convictions to hold on. Not easy. All because someone read about spiders' webs and asked, what if glass could speak bird? And here's the bit that makes me smile. This is one of my favourite case studies, in case you can't tell. The team later moved from a rigid geometric pattern to a random design. Think pickup sticks, not graph paper, inspired more faithfully by a real spider's web design. The primary reason was aesthetic, make it even more transparent. But when they let the pattern go random, let's say more spider, less engineer, the process rewarded them. Less waste, lower production costs, and shorter lead times. They were chasing transparency and they got efficiency and waste reduction too. Boom! This story isn't just about glass, it's about communication design. Design your signal for the receiver's senses, not your assumptions about what they should see. In biomimicry, we call this being locally attuned, tuning your design to the actual conditions of the receiver's world, not just your own. That's as true for website navigation as it is for spiders' webs. And sometimes you have to keep weaving that pattern long before anyone else can see why. The spider does it. Arnold did it. Even Charlotte, with her cobwebs, was quietly ahead of the curve. Not armour, conversation. Surfaces that whisper in the right wavelength. Next time you do the sneaky side eye at your reflection in a passing window, you know the one. Checking out for that, hair out of place or the ones that are starting to appear where they absolutely shouldn't. As you look at your reflection, just know that in that same moment, nature is running life-saving, trauma-diverting communication at silent, sophisticated, grand scale all around you. You just can't see it. Shh, can you hear it? Oh, and my little Kingfisher gem, he flew into the clean window, thank you. Not the one with a few, mostly corner cobwebbies. The spiders and I have quietly been running accidental bird-safe glass protocols for years. I just didn't know we were collaborating. Great job, Charlotte. It wouldn't be very feral of me to just leave it there, of course, because recording that just now, I had a thought. We've got shark deterrent nets all along some of our beaches that entrap everything indiscriminately. Many sea species see UV. What if that same UV design mechanism could deter rather than entrap in that environment? Just leaving that one out there. I'm Pia. This is Feral by Design. Nature owns the patent. We get to copy it.